Hey everyone, Reptile Sam here. I'm here with little Eddie today, and today we actually want to talk to you about a different topic than we usually do. Why maybe you shouldn't have a pet reptile. Maybe a reptile is not the right pet for you. I know I always talk about how fantastic pet reptiles are and how much I love them, and I do, but they're not for everybody. So let's talk about some reasons why maybe you shouldn't get a pet reptile if you've been skeptical about it, which is the number one reason. You should only get a pet that you are completely committed to caring for and to having for a long, long time. Reptiles can live a long time. Even bearded dragons, which are on the shorter end of life expectancies, are still up around 10 years. They can live longer than that. Little Eddie should live upwards of 20 years. A lot of the snakes I have can live up to 25 years. So they're a long-term commitment. So a lot of times, a kid might be 10, 11, 12 years old, think it'd be cool to have a pet, and the parents don't realize how long these animals live, and then after a year or two, a kid might get bored with it. And then that's a problem because then you have an adult animal that doesn't have a good home for the next 20 years. So that's one major reason is you have to be completely committed to keeping your pet healthy and happy for the next 20 years for most of these reptiles. And a lot of people just aren't ready for that kind of commitment with a pet. Another reason is space. If you don't have the proper place to put their tank or terrarium or whatever they need to live in as an adult, you shouldn't get the animal. A lot of times people might see a Colombian red-tailed boa at a pet store, maybe a foot long, pretty skinny little fella. That's the same type of snake that Herman is. Herman's going to be at least 4 feet as an adult, probably longer than that. And he'll be pretty thick-bodied. And I'll be lucky if he can live in the rack system his whole life. It depends on how long he is. I usually go by the rule of thumb of length plus width. Should be the size of the snake, and if the snake's longer than the length plus width of the tub, it needs a bigger enclosure. So they can need pretty big tubs or cages or terrariums. So that's another thing is people don't realize how big these animals can get sometimes. Some animals, like Edgar, lives in a 20-gallon long. He's perfectly fine. A lot of colubrid snakes can probably live in a 20-gallon tank most of their life and be fine. But space is something to really consider. If you buy a baby bearded dragon in a 15, 20-gallon tank, and you don't have room for a 40-gallon tank or a 55-gallon tank, what are you going to do about that? These are things you need to think about before getting reptiles. Make sure you're committed for a long-term animal and they have the space for it. Number 3 is they're not easy pets. Cats are a lot easier than reptiles are. I don't have any cats right now, but I grew up with cats from the time I can remember. We had several pet cats when I was a kid. They're really easy for the most part. Clean their litter box, give them food. Cats could care less. Your reptiles need a lot more care than that. They have humidity requirements. Geckos and bearded dragons have lighting requirements. They need fed often. You need to socialize them, or they can get cage aggressive sometimes. And they need a lot of care. You have to be willing to get scratched sometimes. Edgar's little claws, he can scratch me. I've told you guys in other videos, Edgar's bit me before. It's been my fault, but it happens. Some snakes that are harder to tame can bite. So you have to be willing to give them a lot of care and a lot of attention. And then the fourth thing is feeding. Really the only reptile off the top of my head, so I'm sure there's others, but the only off the top of my head that I can think of that exclusively eat plant matter are iguanas, which get huge and need, I don't know their requirements. I've never kept iguanas, but I know they need very, very large enclosures to have a successful, happy, and thriving lifestyle. And tortoises, which also get massive, need a ton of space, especially outdoor space, and live for decades. So if you're not comfortable feeding your reptiles either live or frozen food, then reptiles probably aren't the right pet for you. Bosk does eat vegetables, but he also eats live bugs. Edgar only eats live bugs. The snakes eat frozen thawed mice. So if you're not comfortable feeding your reptiles this food, you cannot have a reptile that eats a plant-based diet unless it's an iguana or tortoise. And if I'm missing some, which I'm sure I am, they're a very selected few. Most reptiles If you're talking lizards, have to have, bugs in their diet. Bigger ones like some monitors even eat frozen thawed mice like the snakes do. Snakes, you need your frozen thawed. Rodents, and if you have like a female ball python, those can be like pretty large rats. So you really want to think about what your pet has to eat before you just go and buy it because it's cute. Which, Edgar is a super cute little fella. But if you have a thing about having live bugs in your house and keeping live insects and then having to feed your gecko live insects, probably shouldn't have one. Um, so I know always talk about how great reptiles are, and I love them, and they're a great pet for me. But I wanted to go over some reasons why some people might not, be the best reptile owners. And that's okay if you aren't. It's okay to not have pet reptiles. And if you fit into some of these categories where you don't think that you should keep pet reptiles, that's why I'm here. I've got great videos for you and have really cool content both here and on my Instagram at reptile.sam, where you can see all my reptiles and follow along as I feed them and I take care of them and what all it involves with taking care of reptiles. So if you guys have any other comments or questions about taking care of reptiles, and if you are kind of wondering if you should or shouldn't have a pet reptile, feel free to drop a line in the comments down below, or follow me on Instagram at reptile.sam. And until next time, guys, this is Edgar, my leopard gecko, and I'm Reptile Sam, and I'll see you guys later. So have a great afternoon, and remember, always think really hard before bringing a new pet into your life. They require a lot of commitment, but they're fantastic once you do. See you later.